This video is sponsored by UnlockThatPhone.com. Unlock any phone, any carrier, worldwide. Visit UnlockThatPhone.com for more information. Hey guys, Jared here, and as a lot of you guys know, I had to delay my HTC One M8 review because my first one, no pun intended, was defective, and I had to send it back and wait for a replacement. But the replacement arrived a while ago, and I've been reviewing it this whole time, so that said, this is my review of the HTC One M8. Let's jump in. So let me begin by throwing this out there. The HTC One M8 is hands down the most beautiful phone I've ever used, and it feels amazing to hold in the hand. And why wouldn't it? With its all metal design and curved back, along with its tapered edges, it's so comfortable to hold. But at the same time, it can be a bit slippery as we head into the summer, and sometimes having sweaty hands might prove to be a bit awkward when trying to get a grip. The front features HTC's patented dual front-facing BoomSound speakers, a 5-megapixel front-facing camera with an above-average wide-angle lens, perfect for taking those group selfies, and a gorgeous 1080p 5-inch LCD display with a PPI of 441. And yes, unfortunately, it still has that black HTC bar running along the bottom. It's ugly, but apparently it's necessary. Now, as far as the looks go, the back of the device is actually my favorite, mainly because it shows off most of the device's metal, and it's also where the 4 ultra pixel shooter is, which, if you ask me, should have been updated to at least an 8 ultra pixel. But I'm not an engineer, so I'm sure they have their reasons for the lack thereof. And don't forget about that depth field sensor that sits just above the main shooter, but more on that later. Now, they've changed the top of the phone a bit this time, and in my opinion, it's probably to play along with the IR blaster that's still featured in the power button, resulting in a sort of TV remote type look. And I know some people who have no problem with and actually like the power button being located at the top, but it's just something that I've never been able to get used to. Because even though HTC Sense 6 adds swipe and tap to wake features, you still actually have to manually press the power button to lock the screen. And more often than not, I ended up just pressing the volume keys while trying to stretch my fingers to reach the power button. And let's not forget about the expandable micro SD card slot that people have been begging for, which can be upgraded to 128 gigabytes. That said, the wake gestures included are pretty sweet. You can double tap to wake to the lock screen, you can swipe to the left to bring you to what HTC says is the widgets panel, but it just brings me to the home screen, so I'm not really sure what they meant by widgets panel, and yes, I do know what a widgets panel is. Anyways, swiping to the right brings you to blink feed, but I personally have it disabled. Swiping up unlocks your device and brings you to the last screen you were at. Swiping down turns on voice dialing, which actually works pretty good in my tests. And finally, while the device is locked, picking it up in landscape and pressing the volume button quick launches the camera, but in my tests it was sort of hit or miss. Now, the lock screen app shortcuts can be changed, sort of. The apps that you have on your home screen dock reflects the app shortcuts on your lock screen. So just keep that in mind if you want to change those around. And so as I mentioned earlier, the One M8 is running HTC's latest Sense 6. Now, I'm a big fan of stock Android, but Sense 6 has actually really grown on me. Instead of feeling like it's a whole other version of Android, much like Samsung's TouchWiz, Sense 6 feels like a complement to Android, and I love the recent tasks layout and the list view of the app drawer and the settings menu. Now, HTC decided to do away with capacitive buttons this time around and went with on-screen buttons, which I totally dig, but when you couple that with the ugly black bar at the bottom of the screen, personally, it makes me feel like space wasted, even though on a technical level, that's not true. Now, I love how HTC doesn't have a whole bunch of gimmicky features that I didn't want to pay for, but was forced to, much like the new Samsung Galaxy S5. There's no heart rate monitor, and there's no waving my hand around like I'm Harry Potter, even though I know for a fact some people love and will use those features. But for me, just give me a slick and powerful phone and I'll pick and choose the magic that I want on my phone via the Play Store. Now, we do have some personal customization options though, with themes. Although there isn't a ton of choices, it's still nice to be able to change the color throughout the system UI. The new stock Sense 6 keyboard is pretty sweet too. Word prediction and autocorrect work all right, and the swipe feature works pretty good too, but I still found myself falling back on good old SwiftKey. It's not HTC's fault, it's just that SwiftKey is the king among third-party keyboards in my personal opinion. Now, something awesome and at the same time super unfortunate is the extreme power saving mode that's featured on the new M8, or maybe I should say isn't featured on the new M8. Now, the M8 is supposed to come with an additional power saving feature over and above the power saving option that we're all used to. It's called Extreme Power Saver. and it only uses grayscale for the display and disables pretty much every aspect of the device, but still allows for a cellular connection. Now, this feature can provide days upon days of battery life if you find yourself in a pinch, but unfortunately, almost no North American carriers have approved this feature because of various different safety concerns, which is something that Samsung somehow managed to get approved by every carrier prior to launch. So if you're wondering about overall performance, don't worry. The Snapdragon 801 with 2 GB of RAM and the Adreno 330 GPU just plows through the device's UI, multitasking, launching applications, browsing the web, and gaming. But what really makes it feel fast is a little known but very important spec. The display currently has the fastest touch response time of any phone on the market right now, sitting at a super fast 46 milliseconds. And like I mentioned in my first impressions video, it feels like the phone knows what I'm about to tap on before I tap. It's absolutely amazing. So basically, yeah, Sense 6 in my opinion is pretty damn awesome, and I really like it. And yes, this phone is stupid fast. Not once did I experience any sort of lag. That said, I'm sure there will be a few people out there that claim they have. The display is even better than the previous HTC One. Aside from the awesome 46 millisecond touch response time and of course it being full HD, lines are sharp and everything just looks that much more realistic. Though I still love my AMOLED displays because of that extra pop in color they provide. Now sometimes I feel like the M8's LCD display can be a little bit undersaturated, but for me, honestly, it's kind of hardly noticeable, and since this new LCD display, I'm really torn between Samsung's AMOLED displays and HTC's new LCD. I guess it really depends on what I'm doing, like for instance, for gaming and browsing the web, I prefer AMOLED, but for everything else, I think I prefer the LCD featured on the M8. That said, I'd love to know what type of display you all prefer. Now, aside from the HTC One being new and having the latest hardware on the inside, it has a couple really big selling points. The camera and the dual front-facing speakers. But let's talk about the speakers first. We first saw the BoomSound speakers on the first HTC One M7, and they impressed anyone and everyone. I mean, they really, truly sounded and still sound amazing. But HTC has continued to innovate and have improved the speakers even more. According to HTC, they're 20% louder than the M7, as well as having deeper bass and higher trebles without any additional loss in quality. And if you pay attention, you'll notice while watching a video, for example, like maybe a car racing by, that the sound will travel from one speaker to the other, just like if you were listening to it with headphones or even watching TV. Now, I don't know what else to say. I'm just beyond impressed with BoomSound. It's just amazing. Now, the camera is an interesting topic. You either love it or hate it. I personally love it, but as it seems with most smartphone cameras, of course, it's going to have its strong and weak points. But starting with the camera app, and I love this part, it's simplistic and clean looking. Simply tapping the 4-dot button gives you access to options that most people, including myself, use a lot. But hit the 3-dot menu button and you can get really creative if you want to. Want complete manual control? Just change from auto to the M for manual, and now you've got complete control over every single setting. But I guess the big controversy really is with the 4 ultra pixels. Now, the way I look at it is, if the pictures you take are pretty much only ever going to be viewed online or on the phone itself, then it's just fine and take some really awesome pictures. Just don't try zooming in on anything. And you'll be hard pressed to find any Android phones that can take a pic in low light as well as the HTC One does. But let's not forget about the depth of field sensor. First off, I think that it's awesome that it features one, but then I ask myself, was it really necessary? I mean, it allows you to take photos and then use the U-Focus feature afterwards to create that cool bokeh effect. But the thing is, the Samsung Galaxy S5 doesn't have a depth field sensor, and it's capable of doing the same thing. Hell, even Google just put out an app that can do just that. And there were a lot of times where I found myself covering the depth sensor with my hands while in landscape mode, and that was a bit irritating, but I'm sure it's something I could probably easily get used to. But sometimes when trying to use the U-Focus feature, it didn't always work very well. In fact, taking pictures with the intent of using the U-Focus feature was sometimes a pain in the ass. Sometimes I didn't have the object close enough, and sometimes it was too far away. And when I did have it right, the blurring of the background would often bleed into the object that I wanted in focus. But what the Galaxy S5 and Google Camera app can't do is create a super cool 3D photo, and that, as far as I'm aware, requires the depth sensor. And I gotta tell you, showing my friends a 3D effect blows their minds. but what practicality does it really have? As far as I can tell, none. And it's not like you can really share it with anyone online, but who cares? It's still so cool. Now, battery life on the M8 for me has been great. Manufacturers are aware that battery life is important to us, and with each new generation, everyone seems to improve battery life little by little. And the M8 gets me through a full day with no problem. And I wouldn't call myself a super heavy user, mainly because I work from home and have a computer in front of me almost all the time. But when I had to go out shopping and run some errands, and then at the end of the day, go out for dinner with my friends, after taking lots of pictures and browsing the web for fact-checking to prove my friends wrong, 2 Google accounts pulling in emails, GPS, Wi-Fi, and data always on, as well as screen brightness set to max, and the odd text message here and there, I get home at the end of the night with about at least 20% left. And that to me is impressive for a 2600 milliamp hour battery. Alrighty, conclusion time. A lot of people ask me if the M8 is worth the upgrade over the M7, and to them I say, hell yes it is. It's undeniably faster, has a way better display, greatly improved battery life, even better boom speakers, and a camera with a cool companion depth sensor. And if you need more storage than the basic 32GB model comes with, now you can take advantage of the expandable SD card slot. So Samsung fans can stop complaining about that. Now, I love this phone for kicking around town and daily use. This is my current phone of choice, but there are some aspects that'll prevent me from bringing this one with me on trips and outings. The camera's megapixel count is simply too low for me to justify bringing on trips, just in case I want to take amazing landscape photos, maybe ones where I might want to zoom in on down the road, or for the durability factor. I mean, metal is awesome and all, but once this device starts getting some scuffs in it, it'll kill the look and feel for me, and I can't bring myself to putting a case on. I just love that metal feel too much. And with the Galaxy S5, having water resistance and dust resistance, it would most likely be my going on a trip phone, especially with the higher megapixel count on the camera. But ultimately, in the end, it's a matter of what's right for you and what you need in a phone. Well, that's it for this one. I know there's probably some things I may have missed, so feel free to ask away in the comments. But I'd love to know what you guys think of this phone in the comments below, and hopefully this helped make up your mind if this phone is right for you and your needs. And if you like this video, do me a favor of hitting that likes button down below. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my videos, be sure to click the subscribe button and even follow me on all my social networks, which are listed in the description below this video. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.